This is In Character. I'm your host, Gerard Robinson, Vice President for Education at the Advanced Studies in Culture Foundation. This is Gerard Robinson. I am the host of In Character, and I'm with Katy. Katy's from Minnesota. She was a part of a really good group conversation where we talked about trying our best to bridge the gap between families and educators. And more importantly, there are a lot of places where there's no bridging to be done. And so in those situations, what can we do to strengthen the relationship? So to do a little deeper dive in a one-on-one, Katy decided to join me again. So welcome again to In Character.
Thank you. I'm always so happy to talk about parent engagement. I'm a parent educator by trade, and in Minnesota that carries its own license. So I think people get a little confused when they think about parent educator. They might think about a family engagement person, a coordinator at a school, but it's a degree here. It's a licensed position. And so we've been at parent education really intensively for nearly 50 years in our state, from a pilot program that thought, why don't we invest in families early in an education career, like at birth, and see if it off throughout the K-12 experience. And indeed, it does.
So that's one part of Katy. Who was Katy from the beginning, and how did you arrive to the point you're at in your career?
Oh, goodness. So I am a licensed parent educator. I actually started my career as a social worker. I've always been very interested in families and in taking care of families and prevention work. And I found a program called Early Childhood Family Ed, and we call that ECFE in Minnesota, with my own newborn daughter. And I hook, line, and sinker. Like that first day, I started eyeing up the teachers in the room and thinking, how do I get your job? Right? And so I did. I planned it out in between having, and then 2 more children, and navigating work a bit and school and parenting, because I really thought that I had found a dream job, and it really was. So 31 years, this is my first year outside of a classroom, 31 years in a classroom with parents in a circle, navigating developmentally appropriate ages and stages, behavior, parent health, children's mental health, all of that, whatever we can do to support parents, knowing that when parents are well, children do better. That's just a core belief of mine. And so I loved it and loved it and loved it. And then 2011, I was the Minnesota Teacher of the Year. And that took my career into a different path. Started doing lots of training and supporting early childhood programs and parent educators and all of the folks, the whole workforce that raises Minnesota's youngest learners. So that could be childcare providers in home or in centers. It could be parents, it could be pastors, community groups, all of that, doing public speaking and then supporting staffs. And then the pandemic hit and that kind of came to a skid. And I'm now just thinking, I'm just trying to figure out a business plan over the winter to try to help support families in a way that's really meaningful to them. No one knew that this was going to last this long, and parents are really shouldering the brunt of a pandemic. Like when you talk to people who are doing pretty well and doing okay, it's probably because they don't have children in their home. You know, they haven't had, or their children are grown and gone, but folks who are navigating, trying to work and trying to parent and trying to do distance learning are really, really, I give all kinds of praise for them, doing a lot of the share of the work of carrying folks to wherever the end line is, right, for this pandemic. So anywhere that I can support parents and help schools understand that it's not just an aside, like an afterthought. Supporting parents shouldn't be just an afterthought. It should be at the front and center of what we do. We don't just welcome a child to school, we welcome a whole family to school. And so that's kind of the space that I work in now. And so excited to answer any questions that you might have about it.
So I've got a twofer on this one because
Okay.
you have got so much great experience with families. And as
Yes.
I shared with your group, thank you so much for saying families and not just parents because
Yes.
it broadens the scope to include grandparents, adoptive parents, and non-funeral related adults. So before the pandemic, what strategy would you recommend that schools, educators, even policymakers think about to really get families involved the way you know? And the second part is now that we're in COVID, what do you
Yes.
say? Yeah.
Okay, I love that. That's almost a 10 for. So you snuck it in under two, but there's a lot in it. Um, so, first of all, I think what we need to think about, and I think I talked about this in our group conversation, is start early. And I think that people might have thought, oh, she means start in August. And that's not true. Start early. If you have a child in third grade, and you know they have a sibling in first grade and a 3-year-old at home and a brand new baby, start early to me means start supporting that parent with their infant. Let them know that you're here, that your school district. When I think about parents now, and all the places that they take in information online, blogs, um, Facebook, all kinds of places, I feel like schools should just put them in the middle of that and declare themselves as experts. We know children. And we also know is the skill set that you need to be successful in school is really about the same toolbox you take into life. And so if we can start kind of owning our experts in that and start really early with welcome to the class of 2035 or whatever it might be. We're so happy that to hear that you've had another baby. We'd like to support you on your way to kindergarten so that once you get here, you feel supported and welcome. We give you valuable information, not just a cute onesie to wear, but we're here for you, right? So if you're concerned about your child's development, call us. If you're concerned about behavior issues, call us. If you're wondering if your child is reaching their developmental milestones, call us. That also means connecting with the rest of the professionals that work in that space, pediatricians and others. So start early, early, early. And school should be in people's homes as soon as there's a baby in that home. That's just my core belief. And then once we invite them into our actual building, and knowing that that takes quite the person. I often think about my own mom when I think about how comfortable people are or are not walking into a school. Um, when you think about the social capital that it takes to get there, it assumes that you have a car, that you're comfortable doing it, that you have a couple of bucks to spend on the Scholastic Book Fair, that you know what is expected of you in a conference, that you may or may not have childcare at the school. And by the way, we should always have childcare at school if we're having conferences, right? We need to sometimes take down some of those barriers. And if they can't get to school, how else can we get to them face to face? So a Zoom meeting or a phone call at least. But I think walking in, there should be a space that says you are welcome here. So that might be a cart in the entryway full of parents, right? A picture of a family, much like we do to invite all children into our classrooms, make the space really inviting for parents as well. I love to think about a greeter. I would be such a good greeter at any elementary school, just to have people walk in and say, we are so glad you're here. Welcome. Is this your first time? How can I help? What are your expectations? Can I answer any questions for you? Right there at the door so they don't have to navigate that or try to figure out what that feels like. Even as a grown-up person, I reach out to partners when I'm going to do something new. Maybe you do. I think I'll call a friend. So I might call Catherine and say, okay, we're doing this thing with Gerard. So what should I know? What should I wear? How long is it going to take? Will you come with me? Could you pick me up? Can we talk about it after? Do you know what I mean? That kind of capital is something that some parents have, but parents don't. And so I say, let's meet them at the door with that. Instead of come on in, we expect you to know everything there is to know about this night. And by the way, that's just a certain segment of the population. What if this person is just brand new to your school district? What if they moved in yesterday? What if this family lives in their car? What if this parent had a terrible experience at schools, and so your heart rate is at 220 just walking in? Wouldn't it be nice to meet them at the door and say, welcome, we're glad you're here? And by the way, lots of parents come in kind of defended as they feel like. We might have something to say about their kid. Oh, I know what you're going to say, right? Oh man, this is the last place I want to be. And so they come and defend it. I think to take a breath with them and start building a relationship at that door with somebody who can consistently be there, a greeter, that is a great to really come. And then to think about every event we have. Does it really invite people? Or does it invite people that we know are always going to come? And so what would it look like if we bent over backwards, right? Instead of asking families to always bend over backwards, could we do a Facebook Live event of this concert for the parents who have to be at home because they have a newborn, or for the parents who work that shift? Can we do a concert at noon as well? Do you know what I mean? So just really thinking about not just saying, come on in at this one thing at one time and then checking them off our list, but really offering them lots of opportunities to come in and feel valued and feel welcome. You know what? A pot of coffee or cocoa goes a long way right there. I know that that's a tough spend, but I say worth it, right? Absolutely worth it to say, grab a hot beverage, grab a cup of tea. Let's sit down here for a couple of minutes and talk about conferences if you'd like before you start. Or do you want me to come with you? I happen to know Mrs. Bassett. I can come with you and introduce you. That boy, taking down some of those barriers really makes a difference. And then when things are rough, sorry, and then I'll be quiet.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Things are rough and we've invested. If things get rough, I don't need to worry about that beginning stuff because I've already laid the foundation of, I care about you. I care about your child. I see the best in you. So that might be my third pedestal, right? Is to see families from a strengths perspective. Everyone is doing their best work. I promise. I have never met a parent who has stated to me their goal in parenting is to wreck their kid. I've never met them. They always say, I'm just doing my best. I've had better days, I've had worse days. I'm just doing my best. And when we can offer that kind of grace to families, I say that's the kind of thing that has them feeling like school is part of their community as well. Not just a building where their child goes, but a part of their valuable community.
When you started our conversation, you talked about actually having a degree and that your state 50 years ago saying this is important.
Yeah.
What words of wisdom would you give either to schools of education, where most of our educators will go through or to at some point, and even lawmakers who are going to listen and watch this, on how to take what you're talking about and incorporate it into the delivery model for educating educators?
I have to tell you, I've talked to so many teachers that say, we had a class once about conferences and meeting with parents, like maybe they spent 2 hours in their whole prep program talking about working with families. And that might have worked 35 years ago. I don't know. It might have, but I'm guessing that every one of those teachers 1 year, certainly 3 years in, thought, I wish I had better skills working with parents. I wish this was part of my PLC. And so embed it into your college prep programs, not just once, but everywhere, right? What does this look like if we're to involve families in this? What does it look like when we think about parent involvement? And I think I talked to you about this. Involvement, just come on in and watch, right? Watch the concert. Engagement is come on in, let's have a conversation. I can't do this without you, and need something from me. And then parent education is, can I help you? Can you help me, right? We're both caring for this precious child together. And so what can I learn from you and what can you learn from me? And it's a reciprocal relationship for sure. So understand it, that more and more parents are wanting to be uber involved with their child's education, and that's a good thing. It's not an add-on, right? Like, oh, I got to make a couple of parent phone calls, but this is rich, and I love this. I learn from it. I understand this child better. In fact, it's a lens to a child's world and a child's learning that I think a lot of teachers don't pay that much attention to because it seems like just another thing. And so actually having parent educators in your school, right? In expanding the role, maybe with people that are already in your school, right? What would it look like if you added family engagement to that? And so Minnesota has some great models. Harvard, of course, has some great models. There's some wonderful stuff out there for sure.
Well, Katy, first of all, thank you so much for your commitment to the field and to your expertise with particular demography that we often say important, but we say that, but you're talking about really engaging them in the real way.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that work. So glad to have you a part of the In Character conversation, and I look forward to more.
Thank you so much for being interested and for inviting me to have the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.